Imagine you are a world-class athlete and you're representing a first world economy. Now, at the end of a physically exhausting and emotionally draining championship loss, you find yourself in the middle and as the object of bigotry and outright racism. Well, this is not imagined. It was the reality of 3 black players that represented England in the European Championships. Now, South Africa, through its past, is no stranger to racial injustice. But this is not just South Africa's story. We've seen through the recent violent flare-ups that there are festering attitudes and biases that are left open. And of course, the example that I used shows a global trend. Today, we unpack and go deeper into understanding racial injustice. Together with my panel, we hope to unpack and drive a conversation that will get you talking. Why do we see this problem even in 2021? Joining me is Sabata. We have Usis Nompumelelo. We also have Umbali and Siyathokoza. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Igama lami uNomfundoXaba, and I invite you at home to participate in the conversation via our comment section. So I think it's suffice to start off and, one, be alarmed that in 2021 we have such incidences. But why are we still seeing this?
What I can say is that many people are still stuck in the era of the apartheid, So it's kind of difficult for them to just let go of things just like that. I'm not just justifying the way we do things, but then just the honest truth, black people are the ones that are experiencing such things, And I'm not blaming the other people for treating them unfairly and stuff, There are certain things we do as black people which are wrong. And then you can't expect someone to just let go of something, whereas you do something that's wrong, So in order for all this to end, we as black people, we just have to face reality. Instead of doing what we do, always sulking and stuff, So let's just face this reality and carry on with our lives. We come from poor backgrounds, some of us, many black people. So you can't always be on the government, telling the government that we black people, we are always oppressed and stuff. Just own it. You are oppressed. Live your life, carry on, irregardless of what's happening,
Sure. A very frank perspective there from Siyathokoza. Just before we get deeper into this conversation, understanding the term, because we've heard the term racism, but racial injustice, I know it's not reserved just for people in South Africa. It's quite a global term. It's a global pandemic, if you may. Care to explain to us what it is?
I think you've rightfully put it when you said that it is a global pandemic. And it is one that doesn't seem to want to go away.
Yeah.
And it is one that doesn't seem to have a vaccine for it.
Sure.
To assist us against it in any particular way. So what is it actually? It is one race, to simply put it, that sees itself as more powerful or rightfully powerful or wealthier than the other. And therefore, it puts in place measures to ensure that all other races see themselves as inferior to it. Now, why we still see it in 2021 is because it was not something that was born in one day. It's a systematic process or way of living that was put and taught over generations and generations to come, and therefore we still see it today because it is embedded in our minds as other races that we are inferior, and also embedded in the white race's mind that they are superior.
Sure. You bringing such a wonderful context to the discussion. On a broader scale, Bali, I've seen, and I'm taking a bit of what Usiatowaza said, we are born of poverty. But I've seen, people like us aspire to greater things and, financial freedom. Does economic liberty, does it somehow protect you from racial injustice? If so, what is the extent? Or is it just a fallacy? Can you outrun racial injustice?
On that point, I have to say that you cannot outrun it, but we have to admit that there's a certain, being economically free or being in a position that's ahead of some people, it puts you in a better position, especially in society. Like if you're more educated, the wealthier you are, the less likely you are to feel the effects of the unjust system. Like with racial injustice, it is rooted like in colonialism, but then the closer you are, you aspire to like whiteness per se, like Usisi had said. Certain people, I would go out and say, like the closer you are to whiteness, I suppose that society, you seem to be more advanced. In a sense.
Interesting, and I'm asking this because, to be a world-class athlete, you have certain liberties across the world, globe-trotting, and for them to experience something we see in our country happen to just the normal you and I every day is shocking. And my next question would be, especially considering that it happens globally, I remember, post 9/11, people that were Muslim, Arabs, just getting on a plane was an issue.
Difficult.
And being a global world that we are, does it hinder on our safety, this racial injustice?
I would like to comment on that.
Yeah.
Since we have faced cases of, what was that guy, the American guy who was murdered by the police? I think it was Floyd
Mayweather, yes.
Floyd Mayweather, yes. To be frankly, that guy, okay, we don't know what happened. We are here in South Africa. That guy is said to be innocent. So I don't think there is a way to keep someone safe from this. The thing is, what we can do is just raise awareness. Let's educate people, not like educate, but then let's make them aware that we are all people after all.
Yeah.
We seem to reason differently, even though there are people that do wrong things, but then let us not oppress another race.
Yeah.
Let us live, after all, as I have said, we are all people. Oppressing someone, you don't get anything from that. So I don't know why people do things that don't benefit them. Nobody benefits from that. But then it's a sad reality that we oppress one another.
Sabata, just taking it locally with the Clifton Beach saga that we saw in 2019, impela zaqonga ama-South Africans that asambeke thina bala elinjena siyogcwala lapha ema-beach ukukhombisa ukuthi no, this area is for all of us. And taking from what Usiyatokoza is saying, if you say there's a certain kind of person or a group of people that shouldn't be located at a specific area, it affects tourism. And where do we sort of find or draw the line from having what we call private property, or people that are pushing the envelope and taking us back to where we are, la kwakuvinjwa abantu ukuthi to freely enjoy the areas in South Africa?
I think the issue of apartheid has not been properly addressed in the initial stage of democracy. Sadly, our government sacrificed what? The justice of reconciliation.
Sure.
There are things that were not properly addressed, yet they are chasing us nowadays. Previously, during the apartheid era, black people were subjugated because of their pigmentation, of which is still happening nowadays because we do not have power.
Yeah.
When you speak about power, you speak about the resources that were taken more than 369 years ago in 1652, if I'm not mistaken. And that is land. You do not have power, do not have resources.
Yeah.
We are being excluded economically. Therefore, we do not have that power as people, especially as native people, the indigenous people of South Africa.
You're talking about power, and I want to bring it to you, Sis Mpomoguti. There are instances where dealing with racial injustice is urgent. I'll use an example with the case of Floyd Mayweather. There are many like him that because of racial injustice, their lives is in danger immediately. As the public, as an ordinary citizen, how do I become a protector of such people groups when I see an injustice happen? Noting, Uguti, systematically, as you have mentioned, there are other things that we still need to do, like bringing back the land to the people and so forth.
I think perhaps I would start at where the fact that apartheid or where taking it globally, colonialism was a strategy. It was a strategy to acquire certain things and overpower or be powerful in a certain way over certain groups of people. Now, if that was a strategy, it means to overcome it, we require a strategy. Sure. Now, there won't be a strategy if we're going to fight for presence at a beach. That is meaningless to say, can we get in the same bus together? That is absolutely meaningless if really our the possessions and our financial statuses are still showing how segregated we are. So we as the people that actually believe in a unified community, whether black or white or any other race that you are in, we have got to come together and build a strategy that will ensure one day the death of what we see as racial injustice.
Wow. Mrs. Nompimela is bringing such an interesting point. Uguti, just as it was systematically introduced, so should be its unraveling. In your perspective, as a young person that is living at times in very multicultural spaces where you have to sort of assume, a certain kind of way of doing things. But at the back of your mind, there is an injustice that I need to fight for. How do we begin this process of systematically unraveling what has been done?
I'd say that we have to start with, I'll speak for myself, specifically, with the education. We'll start with the education that we're getting now, the education that they are preparing us to be workers. Yeah. We are not being told to think critically, to be able to look at things and add our own perspectives to things. So I'd say with racial injustice, we need to start teaching, changing the curriculums of the schools. We have to Africanize education in a way that we instill back the African identity. I'm speaking specifically with South Africa. And so that that's the only way we'll be able to start to unravel the system. Teach people back to being themselves, who they are, and rebuild those identities that are taken away from them. with
Sure.
colonization.
Do you agree with that, Siyathokoza?
Yes, I perfectly agree with Umbali. In South Africa, I believe that we are being taught things that are too basic, Whereas they are too basic, I just want to make an example. La ngiphuma khona ekhaya eXhobo, kuneskole which is a private school, it's Linford. Yeah, Linford. At that school, I once met a learner from that school, and they told me that what I learned in grade 10, they learned that in grade 7, I think. I can't remember properly, but it was at a primary level, So the education we receive is like too low, and we can't utilize it to progress in life, you know. And as South Africans, why should you teach like an African child mathematics, whereas they can't use that mathematics in future? It's just pointless. So we need to like have an education system that is suitable for South African children.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Sure. I like that, alluding to how racial injustice translates to the quality of life and education opportunities of other races. Just parting words. Rarely, 2021, we are still seeing and complaining about something so detrimental. Masugala, siye phambili. What do we need to be aware of in building?
I would like to agree with my sister here when she was saying, since racial injustice was systematically introduced, we need a strategy that is systematic to fight it or to eradicate it. There is something that was done by one of our political leaders here in KZN, Stephen Bandubigo. He introduced, because you mustn't turn a blind eye on the fact that most people who are suffering or who are being suppressed are native people, African people, although there is no tangible evidence. Steve Biko tried, by his best possible means, to instill self-pride within a black person.
Yeah.
He introduced a philosophy, not a political party, a philosophy that was based on the belief that the liberation for blacks would only be achieved if black people themselves, they can remove the shackles of inferiority and fear.
Inferiority complex,
rather than waiting for white to shape their destinies, you see. I think we must try by all means to be proponents of that philosophy as black people. And as my fellow speaker has said, that our education system has glitches and has problems. It is not aligned to our policies as a nation, first and foremost.
Sure.
If you could recall thoroughly, during the initial stage of democracy, we tried, or the government tried, to address the education system because there were problems previously. The government introduced what OBE, Curriculum 2005, which had plenty of problems.
Sure. Because of time, we're going to have to close it off there. But essentially, the alignment of the country's objective with our education system to directly, challenge these racial injustices. So thank you so much for that contribution. George Floyd was the gentleman we were referring to. Thank you so much to my panel. What a fruitful discussion. I hope you're continuing on a comment section. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Also, click on the notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss any of our new episodes. If you're watching on Facebook, do like and share this video so we can grow our community. Kamalami Unumfundo, the dazzling one, Xaba, from us. Until next time.
Thank you. Cut.